Hi, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our office hour today. There are no. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our. I don't know if I always forgetting to mute. Okay. So there are no questions on week 5 just yet, but I checked the sheets and I see some questions on classes. So I'm going to just answer them to the best of my knowledge. And yeah, then we'll call it a day. So let me quickly open up Dartpad and then share the questions. Okay. All right. Let me paste the questions in. I think I should be able to paste multiple questions at once. Oh, okay. So this here is one question. This here is another, and this here is another. So based on this question, I actually personally had to Google on the difference between, because for classes, right, there are two ways in which you can inherit, in quote. I'm saying in quotes because that has this. Okay, let's just explain it. Let's just explain it one after the other. So first off, you have a, let's say we have an abstract class, for example. You can either create a sub example class and extend this example. Extend. This way, whatever method we have inside of the of this abstract class, whatever abstract method we have inside of it can be inherited or will be inherited inside of our sub-example class. So extends is pretty much a way in which that handles inheritance, right? Every abstract method inside of here, like if we have, I've used this example many times. So say we have this abstract class like so. We see here it's already showing an error that we're missing the implementation for print my name. Hence, we would need to override it. Overriding is a way in which we can modify already existing methods, right? So since we already have this existing abstract class, we override it so that we can flesh it out, right? We can modify it in whichever way suits our class. Now, now that we have carried out, let me take all these up so it stops taking us back down. Okay, so now that we have carried out the override, we see that the error goes away and we can do whatever we want with this print method. So, okay, before I answer this first question, this second question is kind of in line with what we already have going on. It says that I would like to ask that if there is a method of a parent class that you don't want to use in the subclass, what do you do to not use that method as a subclass inherits all properties and methods of the parent class? In this case, right, you are still allowed to create your own, you're still allowed to example, inner method. You're still allowed to create methods of your own inside of your subclasses. It doesn't mean that you're limited to just the abstract classes, the abstract method you're inheriting inside of your subclass. So you can still create as many methods you want inside of your class. There are no limitations. The only thing here is in the case where you are using in the case where you're inheriting, you have to inherit everything that the class comes with, which includes the methods and whatever is inside of it that's inheritable. You have to inherit it and flesh it out in the case of an abstract class, and so on and so forth. So it's important. It's kind of the whole deal of inheritance. You can't partially inherit an abstract class. You kind of inherit all the baggages inside of it. But in the case where you want a unique method to your class, then you can just create it very easily inside of your subclass, right? You can also have what is referred to as non-abstract methods. A non-abstract method is pretty much one that's you can build on, right? Say, this way, you see that we're not getting any errors as to why we're not implementing this method, this existing method inside of the abstract class. So an abstract method you must override an abstract method, and then this is pretty much optional, right? So I hope this answers your question as to the person who asked this second question here. And then about inheritance and extending a class, why do we need to have same values / variables as the ones we're extending in both classes? Should extend not mean that we can use the variables in the parent class inside the child class without defining same variables in the child class? So inheritance in programming is different from inheritance in humans, where you can pick certain parts of the genes picky here and there, right? When you're inheriting in Dart, you inherit everything that comes with it. So if this method inside of the abstract class has a, if it has an argument, you're expected to add that argument to all of the subclasses. You're expected to carry everything as it is in the abstract class, take it with you, literally, to the subclasses. So as many subclasses you create of this parent class example, when you're overriding this print my name method, you must include the arguments that come with it. If I choose to add something else, this is going to throw an error because you're expecting just one argument as it is in the abstract class. And here I went ahead to put in 2. Hence, it's telling us that sub-example per my name isn't a valid override because here you can see that it has two, what's the word? 2 arguments as opposed to what we have existing inside of the parent class. So just the way it is, just the way you have it in your abstract class, you're expected to inherit it just the same way. There are no exceptions, really. So it's a principle, it's a feature, it's a concept, it's a law, it's a rule, and that's pretty much how it is. All right, so let me check YouTube to be sure that we are all together. Okay. No one is confused, thank goodness. All right, so the next thing we want to do is to answer the first question. I decided to answer this too because they're similar and wouldn't take us somewhere else. So in Dart, we have, for interfaces, the way Dart handles interfaces is with the use of a keyword known as implements. Implements works pretty much almost the same way as we have for the extends keyword. I'm trying to think of a major difference. I think the major difference is with extends, you can only inherit, that supports just single inheritance. And for implements, you can, I believe you can implement multiple, I think you can implement multiple parent classes. You're not limited to just one as opposed to inheritance. You can go ahead to, let's say, we have another abstract class here. This says another example. Void print my age takes in age. So we can do class, another sub example, and we have, if we have implements, let's say implement example. We're still expected to do the same thing as though we're inheriting a class. We're supposed to also implement the abstract methods inside of our parent class, right? So we solve this by pretty much the same thing. Oh, yeah, okay. here, there are no exceptions. We still have to override. So we see the clear difference. With extends keyword, we get to just the same with implement and extends when you're trying to implement an abstract class, or you're trying to inherit an abstract class, you're expected to flesh out or to override or implement the abstract methods. And with implements too, even though this is not an abstract method, you're still expected to override it as well and implement the method. I actually didn't know this. I just figured it out right now. But yeah, for implementation or for interfaces, currently, whatever parent class you're trying to implement, you pretty much carry every single thing inside of the parent class. At least with extends, we are exempted. I mean, we can choose to do without, we can choose to not inherit the, well, it's not about choosing not to, because even the way we have the sub-example class, if I were to create an instance of sub-example, if I were to create an instance of sub-example, I should still be able to access both methods inside of the, I should still be able to access both methods inside of the parent class, even though I am not, even though I did not override this method, I still have access to it. So whatever is in the parent class, I can still access it inside of our, inside of the subclass, right? But because this is a non-abstract method, I do not necessarily need to give it an implementation. So a non-abstract class is pretty much one that has a function body, or I mean a non-abstract method, not class. A non-abstract method is one that obviously has a function body, something that has been implemented in quotes. So when you're inheriting, you do not necessarily need to override this method. But you are still going to inherit it, which means you can still access it just the way we see it right here. The sub-example class, like we have here, we see that we didn't override it, but we still have access to the non-abstract method, and as well as the abstract method that we're overriding right here. But for implements, as we have seen also, we need to implement all of the methods that are available to us inside of the parent class. There are no exceptions. It's pretty much takes everything that exists inside of the parent class. And then another difference between implements and extends is you can implement multiple classes. So the other abstract class we created is another example. So you can implement multiple classes, but of course, just the way you have it for one, you would need to override all of the methods inside of the second class as well. So we have this one. So you're expected to implement the methods inside of each parent class you're implementing. Okay, we've covered quite a couple of things in very short minutes, so I'm just going to go over them again for those who might be confused or don't know what's going on. So prior, we already talked about the different concepts of object-oriented programming. We covered inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, and polymorphism. Someone asked about interfaces, and that implements, or that handles interfaces using the implements keyword. Implements keyword, it functions somewhat similar to the extends keyword that we have talked about before, but the difference here is that you can implement multiple parent classes, and another difference is be it abstract methods or non-abstract methods, you would have to override all of them in an implementation, as opposed to when you're inheriting with the extends keyword. So that handles inheritance using this keyword known as extends. Inheritance is pretty much, just as the name implies, you're inheriting every property, every method that the parent class has. So unlike implements, where you would have to override both the abstract methods and the non-abstract methods, extends you can do without implementing the non-abstract methods, but you must override the abstract methods. So an abstract method is one that has no function body, just as the one that we created here. And a non-abstract method is this one that we've somewhat fleshed out inside of our parent class. So I hope this was a clear answer to the question, to this question 1 right here. And then while answering question 2 and 3, we covered that in the case where you do not want to, in a situation where you do not want to override or flesh out or implement an abstract method within an abstract class, there are 2 ways in which you can handle that. It's either you flesh out that method inside of your abstract class and then inherit it, so that you wouldn't necessarily need to have a separate implementation for that method in all of your subclasses. You can just, flesh it out like we have here, make it a non-abstract method, but it's still going to be accessible to all of the subclasses of this parent class. And then another way in which you can solve this is to create unique classes for your subclass, unique methods for your subclasses, like we did here. So you can create as many methods inside of your subclasses as you want, regardless of the fact that it's extending a parent class. You're also free to do whatever you want inside of your subclass, but before you do all that, you need to first override whatever abstract method is inside of the parent class. And then the answer to the second question was, the third question was about why we need to pass in the same variables or the same arguments to methods that are inherited. And the answer to that is that inheritance pretty much is followed to the letter in programming, or in Dart in this case, in that you're inheriting every single aspect of your parent class. So if it has a method that takes in an argument, a string argument, you're expected to implement it just as so. If the argument is optional, if the argument is named, if the argument is positional, when you're inheriting the class, you're going to have to pass in those parameters as it is found in the parent class. Okay, so just as everything else, really, for you to get a good understanding, I mean, I'm still learning. Like right here on the call, I learned about interfaces and non-abstract methods. So it's best, I mean, for you to get a hang of this. I think I've said this multiple times. For you to get a hang of this, you need to practice. It goes beyond just reading articles. It goes beyond just watching videos. To get a full understanding about these things, you would need to practice. You would need to give yourself tasks, or just give yourselves things that you can use. You can use to learn these concepts, because the foundation, like your foundation, is very, very important. What you're learning now, these basics, I mean, I know everyone is eager to go into Flutter, to start building mobile applications, to start seeing your work and everything like that. But if you do not have the foundation, if you do not build on the foundation, it's going to get quite shaky as you go, because things are not going to get simpler, right? The tasks are going to get harder, or, are going to increase in level. And if you don't have the basics, then how then are you going to grow, or how then are you going to advance? So the best thing to do is to keep practicing. Practice, practice, practice. Just keep practicing. You can never underestimate the power of consistency and practice. The more you do these two things, you yourself, you would know that you're truly growing and you're truly understanding these things. Maybe it could just be in the case of someone asking a question and you realize that you already had the answer without having to go Google or something. Or when you see a task, you already have in your head the right logic or the right things you need to solve that task. The goal is really to grow, and the one way in which you can do that is with consistency and to constantly practice. All these questions are asked. I mean, it's great that you guys ask the question using the form. You could also develop the habit of trying to research or Google up these questions yourself. And in the case where it's still confusing, of course, I'm here and I'll do my best to answer the question, in the best of my knowledge. But please keep practicing, and don't forget to use the form whenever you have a question, and I'll do my best to answer it in coming office hours. So that is the end of our session today. Like I said, leave a question. If there are no questions, then there will really be nothing for us to go through during the office hour. The materials for this week are a lot, so I'm actually expecting questions, and but we're not going to cover how to install Flutter or how to get started with how to create your first Flutter app. No, because the materials go in detail on how to do all of that. So it's just a case of a question, and then I show you an example to answer the question, and so on and so forth. All right, then. Thank you all so much for joining, and yeah, see you all